Hello, 6th grade mathematicians. We are going to go ahead and get started into looking at integers and graphing. So you need to go ahead and get your book open to page 345. We are starting chapter 5 today, lesson 1. So 345, and we're going to go ahead and jump right in and get started. So I want you to take a look at this real world link. It says the bar graph shows the amount of money remaining in a clothing budget for 4 students at the end of 1 month. A value of -2 means that someone overspent the budget and owes his or her parents $2. Now, if you're anything like my house, yes, my kids owe me money. If they say, Mom, I just want to go get something for $10 and they end up spending $15, then they owe me $5 because they went over by $5. So if you take a look at this, you see Berto spent about $5. It looks like Elijah spent about $2. Jenna spent about, she went over because she's -2. And Myron went -8, so he went $8 over budget. What number represents owing $8? Well, if you owe somebody money, that's obviously not very good, so that's a -8. What number represents having $5 left? That is just a +5 or just a regular 5. Who has the most money and who owes the most money? Well, let's see. Who has the most money left? It appears that Berto has the most money left, and you can write this in. Berto has the most money left. And who owes the most money? Myron owes the most money because he owes his or her parents $8 more. So that negative is showing that he owes more money than what he was supposed to be spending. Okay, let's go ahead and turn to the next page on 346, and let's take a look up here. Positive whole numbers and their opposites and 0 are called integers. For example, positive whole numbers, so 5, and their opposite, so their opposite would be -5. So you have a +5 and a -5. Or let's say you have -13. The opposite of -13 is 13. So those are both integers. Well, all examples of integers. To represent data that are less than 0, you can use negative integers, which we had done right here and right here, -13 and -5. A negative integer is written with a negative sign. Data that is greater than 0 represent by positive integers. For example, negative integers right here is pointing to a -6. The opposite of the -6 is a +6, shown with a positive, but really we don't ever use that plus in front. We just know if it does not have a negative sign in front of it, that it's positive. Okay, 0, this is important, is neither positive nor negative. All right, and then this part right here, opposites are numbers that are the same distance from 0 in the opposite direction. So if we're at 0, and I said 4, +4, and you go over +4, the opposite of that is going in the opposite direction of 0 to -4. All right, it says write an integer for each situation and explain the meaning of 0, basically where you started. Okay, what does 0 really mean in this situation? A 10-yard loss. Well, a 10-yard loss usually pertains to football, right? So it's not a very good thing if you go back 10 yards, right? So that means that that would be a -10. Okay, it is a loss of 10 yards. Okay, so a loss is negative. In football, the integer 0 represents no loss or no gain. So you're at the line of scrimmage. Okay, Patrick Mahomes is at the line of scrimmage, or whoever our quarterback is at the time, in case he's hurt, is at the line of scrimmage. And let's say he cannot go forward, but yet he ends up going back -10 yards. Not good. But right here, that means no yards lost and no yards gained. That's what the 0 means. That would be your 0. 4 inches above normal. So if it's above, that means if 0's here and we've got 4 more inches, that's above. In this situation, the 0 represents the normal amount. Okay? a 48 deposit into savings. Now this is where people get confused between the word deposit and the word withdrawal, okay? And I'm just going to say this because those are two hard words that sixth graders sometimes don't have a grasp of. So a deposit means you're putting money into your account, which is good. Putting money in. A withdrawal means you are taking money out. Okay, so putting money in is a deposit and taking money out is a withdrawal. So a deposit into the savings account represents an increase, which would be a 48, and you could put a positive there. It's a positive. We're not taking the money out, but we're putting that money back in. So in this situation, the 0 represents neither a deposit nor a withdrawal. You could also say 0 also represents, you could also say, because there's different ways that you could represent the 0. So where we started was the money that was already in the savings account. Money already in savings account. There's a lot of different ways that you can explain that, okay? All right, let's take a look at this one. A gain of $2 a share. A gain. Well, if it's a gain, we know for sure that that is a positive $2, okay? So what does 0 mean? 0 means no loss, no gain, okay? It just stayed the same. Okay, we didn't lose any money, we didn't gain any money. All right, 10 degrees below 0. So if it's below, that is a negative 10, and you could put the little degree sign. So negative 10 below 0. So what does 0 really mean? Well, 0 here means 0 degrees, right? Very good. Okay, let's take a look at the next page, 347. Let's talk about how we graph integers. Integers and sets of integers can be graphed on a horizontal or vertical number line. Horizontal or vertical number line, it doesn't matter. Okay? It says to graph each point on the number line, draw a point on the number line and as its location. A set of integers is written by using brackets. Okay, they're kind of like these little doohickey things. Okay, like little scribble marks. Those are called brackets. Okay, so if we wanted to put down 2, -9, and 0, okay, those are where we would graph them on the number line. So for example, graph number 7. Well, right here, -7. That's a big difference between 7 and positive 7. Okay, let's graph the set of integers here. -4, cross it off. We see that they graph 2, cross it off, and then -1. Cross it off. That's all we're doing. Okay. Let's take a look at C. -3, we're going to graph it there. 0, graph it there. -2, graph it at -2, and +4. Graph it and mark it off. Now let's use the vertical one for this. Okay, 8, +8, make sure you don't do negative. -6, -9, uh-oh, we don't have a -9. Yes, we do. Okay, -9 is going to fall right in between those two. And you don't need to necessarily write -9. You could just put your plot there, your dot there. And 5. Oh, another one that we don't have. Right there, right in between 6 and 4. That is graphing our integers. Okay, let's take a look at the next page. It says, Elena and her dad, take a look at number 7. Elena and her dad played golf on 4 different days. The data set -1, +1, -3, +2 shows Elena's scores in relation to par. Graph the scores, then explain the meaning of 0 in the situation. So you're going to see that these are all graphed already right here. Okay, so they've graphed them, they've plotted them. I should probably use a different color than the blue that they used. And then the 0 is representing par. meaning that's the score that you would get on golf. Okay, if it's a par 5, that means it should take you 5 shots to get from where you started on the tee box to when you finish on the putting green. Okay, it should take you 5 shots. If you go over, like a +1, that means you did 6 shots on a par 5. If you got a -1, that means it only took you 4 shots, okay, instead of the 5, because they're giving you 5. All right, let's take a look at these examples right here. It says a 15-yard gain. Well, that's really good. If you have a running back and he gains 15 yards, that's a positive 15 yards. Now, let's explain the meaning of 0, okay? And you can do it, like this, or 2 semicolons. It doesn't matter, just as long as I'm kind of separating my 2 answers, okay? In the integer 0, 0 means no loss nor gain. You could also say it is the line of scrimmage, right? That's where they started, if you know football terms. And you might not know that, and that's okay, because that's where they started. A loss of 2 hours. So you're driving around and you get lost literally for 2 hours. So a loss of 2 hours. Yeek. Yike. That's a -2. So the 0 means no loss of time nor no gain of time, right? Meaning you didn't make time, but it's a no loss, no time, or no gain. All right, let's graph these integers. So -2, well, let's put a 0, 1, 2, -1, -2. And we're going to go ahead and graph that. -2 goes there. So here we go, 0, 1, 2, -1, -2. So we're going to graph -1, we're going to graph 1, and we're going to graph 0. Check done. Okay? All right, let's take a look at this one. The data set +5, 0, 15, 20 shows the number of points Delaney scored on each hand of a card game. Graph the scores. Explain the meaning of 0 in the situation. Well, 6th graders, look at this line that they have. Now, is it going to make sense for us to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? No. Instead, I'm going to graph them by 5s. So I'm going to put 0 in the middle, and then I'm going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, and then I'm going to go -5, -10, -15, -20. Okay? Now, let's first set them on here. So I've got a +5 right there, 0 right there, -15 right there, and then +20 right there. Now, explain the meaning of 0. Okay? 0 means a score of 0 because it's a card game. Okay? It's a score of 0. You could also say there's no gain, there's no loss, because you're not getting any points and you're not losing any points. All right. I think that pretty much sums it up. Good enough for now with this lesson of integers and graphing integers.